It is week 3, and the 49ers have just suffered their most disappointing loss in the NFL season to none other than a winless and decimated Los Angeles Rams. And you're talking about Rams without Puka Nacua, Rams without Cooper Kupp, Rams on their third offensive line in week 3 because of injuries, and the 49ers found a way to squander the game after being up by 10 multiple times in the game. In fact, the Rams had not been in the lead for 59 minutes and 30 seconds of the game, and the 49ers just squandered the game. Now, Brock Purdy had a phenomenal game. There were 6 drop passes. In fact, Brock Purdy was 22 of 30 for 292 yards, and yes, still had 6 drop passes. That means 2 of the passes were actual misses, where the other 6 were drops. Brandon Ayuk has not lived up to his contract. Ronnie Bell should not even be on the team. And who else outside of Juan Jennings is trustworthy on this 49ers offense? The Rams' game plan was to stop Jordan Mason, and they were successful at that. Jordan Mason was 19 carries for 77 yards, averaging 4.1 after almost averaging 6 yards a carry in the previous game. So they had a clear game plan to take that away. And Brandon Ayuk is still somewhere off in the offseason, nowhere to be found, because we saw multiple drops from Brandon Ayuk, not to mention the drop at the end of the game, which could have potentially won in that Stanford ban type of play. And so the question is, when are the 49ers going to wake up? Nick Sorensen, you were the one that's brought in to run the defense after Steve Wilkes got away from the identity, and you're having Devondre Campbell play man-to-man on a running back. Devondre Campbell cannot cover. There's zero reason he should be playing man-to-man coverage. In fact, D. Winter should be playing until Dre Greenlaw is ready to get back. So this is an unfortunate game when Juwan Jennings had a Hall of Fame type game with 3 touchdowns, a Randy Moss type catch. In fact, you look at Juwan Jennings, 11 catches, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns on 11 targets. Juwan Jennings played like the $30 million receiver that Brandon Ayuk is getting paid to be. And he showed up. Nobody else showed up. Brock Purdy showed up. He showed up with his legs, showed up with his arm. But you know what? What should have iced the game were 2 different areas. Jake Moody, you need to nail that kick. That is what you get paid for. That's why you got drafted. You need to nail that kick. There's zero reason not to get that because you're in a dome. There's no wind. That's an easy kick. That's what you get paid to do. Ronnie Bell, twice you dropped the ball. Twice. One on the third, both on crucial third down plays. One to ice the game, you drop it. Wide open. Brock Purdy throws a dime to you. No reason to drop it, and you drop it. So the question is, Kyle Shanahan, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Because clearly we are in last place in the division. We're in last place, and the schedule only gets tougher. So you need to figure out, what are you going to do on defense? What are you going to do with the offense to score more than 24 points in a game? What are you going to do with the running game without a George Kittle to kind of help along that side? What are you going to do with Trent Williams and not in football shape? What are you going to do about Colton McKivitz? That fumble that Brock Purdy had is because Colton McKivitz lost in the first 1 second of the snap. Jake Brendel had a little bit better game, but is still ranked 34 out of 34 centers when it comes to his protection skills up the middle. And so the 49ers, while having the most talented roster, seems to be playing like the worst team in the NFC. They are 1-2. They are 0-2 in away games, which is typically indicative of a mediocre team, teams that win at home but can't win on the road. They are 1-2, and their schedule is only going to get tougher. Next week is New England, and that's a game you would assume that they would win, kind of like this game with the Rams decimated. But no, you never know. You don't know. The Niners could be going into the toughest part of their schedule at 1-4 if they lose the next couple of games. Right now, the Seahawks are undefeated in the division. Then you have the Rams that are now 1-2, and so are the Cardinals. And so the 49ers are 0-2 in the conference, which does not shape up well when it comes to seeding, if they even think that they're planning on making the playoffs. It seems like they're looking ahead, or potentially the Super Bowl hangover, in which they may not even make the playoffs to be able to make a defense. You cannot have this season squandered because Christian McCaffrey is on the IR. You cannot have the season squandered because Deebo Samuel is hurt for a week or two. You need to do something. You have the talent for it, and you need to come up with something. The Rams on offense, it was simple. Their game plan was take Fred Warner out of the game, which means somebody else has to step up. And in this case, Devondre Campbell is there, and everybody knows he cannot defend against the pass. In fact, he didn't even do that great against the run either. And so I think it's time to get him out off the field, get D Winters a few different shots and see what he can do. Charvarius Ward, you're not playing great this season. You seem to be in a contract year. You want to make big-time money, but you gave away a 50-yard bomb to let the Rams back into the game, which you were playing zone, which means nobody should beat you over the top, and you just got sucked looking into the backfield. So what a terrible loss, and the 49ers, hopefully you regroup. Hopefully you can get back to the drawing board and take care of business next week against the Patriots, because this is not a good look. Jed York is not happy after writing all those checks, more like Denise York, his mom, who paid all those checks to Trent Williams, to Brandon Ayuk, to Deebo Samuel. All these guys that are being paid that got upfront money that are not doing anything in the win column or in their stats. So Brock Purdy doing what he can, but he can't do everything on his own. He would have had over 300 yards if it weren't for those 6 drops. But he showed out today, had 137 rating, which unfortunately would be notary because he's the only quarterback in the first 3 seasons to have that many games over 130 quarterback rating. He set the record, but nobody's going to talk about that because of how they've started this season. Juan Jennings, huge game. A breakout game, but nobody's going to be talking about that because of how they ended this game. So Kyle Shanahan, it's time to take some ownership. This falls on you, because there's no way you should have allowed Nick Sorensen to have that type of defensive game plan where it seemed like Matthew Stafford had all day to throw, even though they had a patchwork offensive line. It seemed like the defensive backs were completely outmatched. It seemed like you were outcoached again today. So the question is, Kyle Shanahan, did you not calling plays during the offseason also affect you? You saw Brandon Ayuk not show up during the offseason. You saw Trent Williams not show up during the offseason. We saw it affect their play. Maybe you not calling plays during the preseason affected your play calling. So I think there's a lot of checking in the mirror that needs to happen, and hopefully things change really quickly, because the 49ers, you cannot afford to squander this season before the first quarter of the season is done. That's all we have for today. Tune in next week as we check out the film, break it down, and kind of see a little bit more of what happened, what good we could take away, but also what areas for improvement. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you